say?
I am Iron Man.
Oh, what's in the box?
Flash, I love you! But we only have 14 hours to save the Earth!
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
And here we go.
The Kaiju. They're gonna come back. I'm not gonna be stuck waiting for someone else to come save my ass.
Cadets, you better gear up.
It's a smashy-smashy, boom-boom, bang-bang, pew-pew, roar sequel to the Rock'em Sock'em Robots vs. Giant Kaiju monster movie from 2013. You know, the sequel that no one thought was going to happen. Not even the original director, Guillermo del Toro, or the original stars thought it was going to actually happen. Don't worry, I'll get to that one a little bit later. But, thanks to big international box office, we finally have Pacific Rim Uprising for more smashy-smashy robot goodness.
How'd they get into our world?
Someone let them in. Someone from our world.
So, Pacific Rim 2 does exactly what it says on the box. Much like the first film, we're told about the Kaijus, the Jaegers, the fact that it's 10 years after the first film, all in the opening sequence. Often like a warning for the audience. This is a movie about big fucking robots kicking the shit out of big fucking monsters. And if that's not what you're into, then maybe you need to go and see Del Toro's fish fucking movie instead.
Who is that?
Definitely not one of ours.
Let's do this!
Starring Star Wars John Boyega as Idris Elba's son, along with Scott Eastwood, we have a cast of new, completely forgettable characters and the return of Always Sunny's Charlie Day and Rinko Kikuchi. Not to mention, giant robots that got their names via a random noun generator.
Jaeger pilots, help me save the world!
Now, the story is basically the same as the first. They're building giant robots in case the Kaiju ever come back. But when a rogue Jaeger appears, it becomes the first step towards the return of the Kaiju to our Earth so that they can basically, you know, kill us. So look, I'm not really into doing big spoilers in reviews, but if you've ever read or listened to an interview by Charlie Day, back when they had more or less come to the conclusion that they weren't going to be making a sequel to this, then you basically know that he explained the entire outline for the sequel that they thought was never going to happen. It's not Charlie Day's fault. Before the film went gangbusters in China, who would have actually thought they were going to make a sequel to this film?
Plan B. Always a plan B.
Of course, when watching the movie, I suddenly remembered those interviews when Charlie Day showed up on screen. And then I found myself going, wow, are they really going to go ahead with that story? Later in the film, it's kind of confirmed that yes, they're totally going to go with that storyline. And then when you get to the third act twist, it arrives and suddenly it's neither surprising nor logical when you really think about it. And you know, that's kind of the thing that gets in the way when watching one of these types of movies. Logic. I really enjoyed the first film for committing to giving robots a sense of weight and scale. You really believed that these robots would have moved the way they moved and destroyed the kind of things they destroyed in that first film. This time around though, the film kind of plays loose with the physics. With giant robots flipping and jumping, somersaulting and smashing through one building, but then bouncing off another building, which just makes you think, what the fuck was that building made out of? And then you have this one fight with two Jaegers on ice. Giant 400-ton robots fighting on a sheet of ice. And you're just thinking to yourself like, what the fuck? As mentioned before, the film stars John Boyega as the son of Idris Elba. And that's exactly what it feels like, Idris Elba light. We've got Scott Eastwood trying to bring his dad's intensity, but once again, it comes off as Clint Eastwood light. We've got some big smashy-smashy robot monster fights, but they all still come off as lighter versions of what we've seen before. With some not-so-subtle attempts to appeal to the international audience, the film ticks all the diversity and location boxes required to meet their intended audience with scenes in Russia, Japan, Australia, and most importantly China. I'm certainly not saying that it's a bad thing, it's the way films will be produced from now on. It's just that this time around, it feels a little more cynically motivated than the original film. But when all is said and done, you either like the first film or you hated it. If you like the first film, then you should be perfectly happy with the sequel. If you weren't the biggest fan of the first film, then this film will do nothing to make you drift compatible with the series. Pacific Rim gets 3 punch-happy robots out of 5. However, if you're one of those people who needs a little bit more depth in your movies, then probably 1.5 snarling kaiju box-ticking film executives out of 5.
By everything you've got!
Legendary